Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me here for our September Yang practice. The idea with this one is that we are going to harness the energy of September. September is sometimes called the other new year. It can be really tough. In January, it's cold, it's dark. Not necessarily the best time of year to get into new habits, healthy habits, our dreams and desires for ourselves. September, with this feeling of, the start of the fresh school year, most of us were in, the regular school system where you run September to June, and it's sort of in our bones that when the weather gets a little bit cooler, we have this feeling of like, okay, back to business. Often it's too hot in the summer to stick to routines or be our best selves. And I notice most of my clients and friends will have this sort of longing, not that we want summer to fade, but that we're looking forward to the temperatures cooling and getting back into our routines. So that is my hope with this practice here, that we can get, back to school, back to business for ourselves. So this practice, and the practice we'll do later in the month, are my best of the best, tried, tested, and true. If you want to have an uplifting practice, this is it. And the next video will be if you want to have kind of a down-regulating practice, that's it. So these are the things that I just keep coming back to with my clients, my classes, and myself with general recommendations. And I hope you like this little package. On top of that, we also have our tea and essential oil for the month. So in terms of Ayurveda, we're moving more towards Vata and out of Pitta. So less fire and more dryness. So we should be working on hydration. And often during the summer, we have this fiery urge to drink lots of coffee or iced coffee or alcohol. And often as the weather cools, that feeling kind of dissipates. I don't know if that rings true for you or not, but we should be working on the healthy habit of hydration as we move into winter, which can be quite a dehydrating time. We don't always think of that. We think of the heat of the summer as being dehydrating. But we're actually at quite a risk for dehydration when the temperature cools because it's not top of mind that we still need water. And actually we have a lot of water loss from our skin in the dry air. So if, like me, your furnace has already started coming on overnight, we should be hydrating in the morning to replenish that moisture loss that we've lost as the house kind of dries out overnight. So what's my choice for today? I'm gonna go lemongrass green. Lemongrass can be really nice and uplifting, kind of put some pep in your step, a little bit tangy. And then the green, of course, there are a lot of health benefits to any kind of tea, but green tea, there's a ton of research on the value of green tea, even decaffeinated. So I'm actually recording this in the late afternoon. I've got decaf green with my lemongrass, which I think is a great way to kind of pep your energy without the caffeine, but to get that kind of, zing from lemongrass. You may have trouble coming across lemongrass tea. It's a little bit harder to find. Sometimes it's in other blends. It's harder to find lemongrass on its own. Another way you could get that kind of tangy feel with a little bit of caffeine would be Earl Grey tea, which has bergamot in it. I know it's not the same thing, but it still has that sort of citrusy vibe. And if you like the caffeine or the decaf version, gives you the benefits of tea or a little bit of pep in your step. Let's talk bergamot. This is our essential oil for this month. Similar to lemongrass, can give us that kind of pep in our step, feels sort of uplifting, optimistic mood boost without that kind of caffeine. So it's great in the morning so that we're not overdoing it. I know a lot of you out there just don't do caffeine, and we can get that energy boost from our essential oils. Or when I usually use it is later in the day when I'm doing a practice like this that I need a little bit more, but it's too late in the day for caffeine. And often the way that I will use it is just to put a drop on a tissue, or even a half a drop, even if you just wipe the cap. I know essential oils can get really pricey depending on how you use them. You don't even need a full drop. I know sometimes people are just dumping half a bottle in their diffuser. Just a little wipe on a tissue is probably more than enough. And very, very fashionable. Tuck it inside your shirt. And then you get that kind of wafting up of the wonderful bergamot. Now, for the sake of our practice today and just recording, I'm not gonna wear this. It also is probably gonna rub on the microphone, but for you, honestly, I would say when you wake up in the morning, put a drop, tuck it inside your pajamas as soon as you get up, and it can give a nice boost. Or even if it might fall out partway through, feel free to leave it in for our practice here today. It looks silly, but nobody's watching. All right, the other thing you might like is a chair. We'll be doing some balance stretches towards the end, or perhaps you do not prefer sitting on the floor. You can use this for opening meditation and closing meditation. Without further ado, let's get into our practice, and we will start with our alternate nostril breathing. So be mindful if you do have bergamot on your fingers, you might actually just want to wipe it off before we get to touching our faces. Okay, we're ready. Let's begin. We begin with alternate nostril breathing, and I want to put you at ease. If you are a little confused about the coordination or what's going on, don't worry. You can't mess it up. Everything's going to be okay. As long as we are breathing mindfully, gently, we're in good shape. So the easy way to begin with alternate nostril breathing is we take our first finger on each side. We're going to block one nostril, take a breath in. Let's go ahead and switch to exhale. And then we do the other side. So we're always inhaling on one side and then switching to exhale. What if you mess that up? It's fine, it doesn't matter. So I like to think to myself, inhale, switch, exhale. Inhale, switch, exhale. You could also do a round of breath on one side, inhale, exhale, a round of breath on the other side, inhale, exhale. More important that you make it a sticky habit than that you get it perfect technique. Okay, but if we are feeling more comfortable with it, we can take our surfer dude mudra and do the same thing with our pinky and our thumb. Inhale and switch. Exhale. Let's see if we can inhale for a count of 4. There's just a micro pause as we switch, and then exhale for a count of 4. Still keeping with that pattern, inhale, switch, exhale. And if you can keep going while listening to me, noticing how this practice lands for you. So if you notice by chance you are overthinking or really tense or efforting too much, let's see if we can take off a little layer of that effort and just let it be. Let it flow, let it be. Giving ourselves a little pat on the back for working on this habit. That is the most important thing we can do. Do a couple more rounds. Let's see what we can do to just make it feel more natural. That might mean adjusting the hand position. We could even do it just as a visualization, not using the hands. Eyes opened or closed. Relaxing tension anywhere that we're holding it. And then with our next exhale, we'll release. Let's do a full round of breath to reset. We may like to exhale from the mouth. This kind of pursed lip exhale, like we're breathing through a straw, can be cooling. There may still be some heat where you are, and that's one way that we can feel a bit more chilled out. And we'll get into our Kundalini circles. So we sit tall, putting our feet flat on the floor if we're in a chair, or any comfortable way if we are seated. We got this wide base, so maybe taking feet wider if you're sitting in a chair, because we are going to move our center of gravity around. And let's draw some circles, feeling out the range of motion for yourself. So think about what you've been doing lately. If you've been really stiff and you're getting into some big movements, we can back off a little bit. Maybe you've had some digestive troubles, bigger movements might be uncomfortable. Maybe this feels like a nice release in the hips and you want to do some like really big movements, even catching ourselves or walking ourselves around with our hands, totally fine. So we're just going to keep doing our Kundalini circles, spinning around like a top, listening to our bodies. Sometimes it feels good to be more in the front range of motion, going back and forth instead of drawing a complete circle. And then I usually like to say, noticing where you're holding tension in your own body. So I feel like I'm unusually tight on this side today. So then I could spend more time in here, loosening up this spot. So letting our bodies tell us where we need to be doing the most work. It's still balanced, we're still going all around, but we can tune in and, noticing however it works for you. But I will say, let's call this the halfway point. So if you've only been circling one way, let's be sure to circle the other way as well. And if we got confused about which way we were circling, it's okay. I want to put you at ease. Everything will be okay. We're moving, we're breathing. That's the important stuff. We'll start to make our way back to center, finishing it up, maybe 3 more circles depending on how quickly you're going. We'll come back through. And let's give those shoulders a few rolls, resettling, checking in with how we're feeling, how that worked for you. And really every step of the way, I encourage each of us to tune in and see, because sometimes we come to a technique that either doesn't work well today or really doesn't work for you at all. Okay, we'll do our movements of the spine. So we'll do cat and cow, and we'll be on all fours. You could always stay seated and just do the spinal movements as you are. Or if you would like to join me on the mat, let's come to an all fours position. And we may like to start in child's to set our alignment first before we begin. Settling back, letting our body weight rest down. And always a reminder, we know we can rest at any point. You do not need to wait for permission from me to come into child's or any other resting pose at any point. But if we're ready to warm up our spines, let's come into a strong all fours position, spreading our fingers wide, pressing down through our knuckle joints, pressing down through the tops of the feet. And we'll move our spines, arching one way and then the other. So if we've done cat and cow before, we know that we tend to do our spines kind of like the letter U and then like a rainbow. We may like to ripple that movement starting at the tailbone, rippling through the spine until we finally get to the crown of the head. And then as we come into the next pose, same idea, starting at the tailbone, rippling through the rest of the spine. So this helps us to channel the element of water as we move into a drier season. And the same as we did with our Kundalini circles, we can have a lot of freedom as we move through this. Pause in our cow pose for a moment here, lengthening out our bellies. And then opportunity for a pause, we can rest back in child's, or maybe we like downward dog at this point, tucking our toes, lifting up. And we have one more. Let's do our spinal rotation, and then we'll come up to standing. So the same idea, strong on all fours. We can rotate from a seated position, right? So we don't always have to put weight on our hands, but it does tend to be a nice, familiar pose for most people that I work with, so I'll give us that option. Okay, we're gonna take one arm, twist to open, pressing down with the bottom hand, lifting up and stretching with the top hand, coming back through center, sweeping under. That's our flow. Inhaling to lift, and then exhaling to release. For some of us, it may feel quite restricted, getting up to the top. That's okay. It's all part of the process. Okay, last one up and down. We'll come back through to center, and let's take it to the other side. Freeing the opposite hand, opening up, pressing down as we are stretching tall, and we flow. Couple more. And again, we have the option, we can rest back in child's pose, taking it nice and easy. Or maybe we're more comfortable lifting up and downward dog, but whichever pose we're in, we can do a little bit of movement, shaking off the hips, maybe turning the head side to side. And we will start to make our way up to standing. So if we love a forward fold, we can hang out here. And as we're ready, coming all the way up, standing in mountain pose, readjusting as we need. Let's circle sweep our arms, honoring our range of motion in our shoulders. All right, we'll add on something a little bit different. We don't always do this one, but it can be nice to kind of shake our energy off. So we're gonna inhale up, and then as we exhale, we can do a harsh exhale through the mouth and really shake those hands off. It's kind of a low impact way to get some intensity into our movements. And we can be dropping the heels or bouncing the knees at the same time. Okay, last one here. Excellent. Okay, let's do our lateral flexion. So we did rotation of the spine, front and back movement of the spine. We're gonna do our side to side movement of the spine. Let's take our fingertips behind our ears, and we might be more comfortable with feet hip width apart. And we're gonna take elbow down on one side, up on the other. We can inhale through center, and then exhale, strong core as we go side to side. So we have a little reset at the top with our inhale. And I find that with the bent elbow, it helps us focus more on like a strong crunch down the side of the ribs. Now you may be more familiar with a style that has us reaching one arm all the way up, one arm down. That's okay too. Let's do our last one here. We'll come back through center, and we are all warmed up. Shoulders, spines, breath. We'll do a little bit of work for our hips. Let's go ahead and take our feet and we'll do some kind of pivoting movement options. So you might actually be happier with your mat wide like this facing me. If you have it set up more like a diving board, you might just need to look over your shoulder a little bit more. You'll figure it out. I have faith in you. All right, so let's go ahead, and if our feet are wide, we're gonna pivot into sort of a short stance, warrior one. And we're loosening up the front of the back hip. So our front leg has more work going on to hold us here, and our back leg gets more stretching through the front of the hip. If it feels good, whichever leg is in the back, meaning that the hip gets stretched, we can reach that same arm up and increase the stretch down the front of the hip. We can look up, lifting our hearts. Let's bring ourselves back through center. And then the fun part, we pivot straight to the other side. Short stance, warrior one. We'll get ourselves solid here. So we're pressing down through the back heel, strong through the back of both legs, and then long through the front of our back hip. Our front leg is bent and holding us here. Sometimes we kind of forget about that front leg. Let's keep our knee over our ankle if we want to be working more the strength benefit of this pose. Okay, whichever hip is stretching, the straight leg, same arm comes up. And to increase the stretch, we can lift our posture, lift the chin, really uplifted and optimistic, channeling that energy of bergamot and lemongrass, feeling peppy. Let's take one more breath here. We'll come back through center. We'll open the feet wide. We'll do some stretches for our legs, but let's start with strength. You may, like me, prefer a wider base. It might actually be so wide that it's a bit of a challenge for balance, but we always have our chair, right? Let's lower and lift. Lowering down, dropping into our wide squat. We can inhale up and out, making our bodies the letter X. And then exhale, we can take hands to thighs to help support our strength as we drop down. Okay, this time we're gonna hold at the bottom. Let's lower down. We have our hands for support on our thighs or the chair. And we'll focus on our inner thigh stretch. Sometimes it actually feels quite nice. If you're accustomed to really working shoulders down and back all the time, it can feel nice as we lower down to let our shoulders pop up to our ears, being sure that our shoulders have the ability to move in both directions, both up and down. So this might be quite a nice release to have our shoulders pop up. We can also add a little bit of rotation, one shoulder in at a time. Come back through center. Let's turn our toes forward and we'll bend one knee. Whichever knee is your favorite knee, we can bend and we're just gonna hold and stretch. Again, we can have hands on the back of the chair. The seat of the chair is usually more stable. The floor, if we can make it down there, or our thigh. Let's notice how much our core muscles are working and how much we're just like holding on for dear life. We can be light on our thigh, shake our hands off again. Long spine, full even breath. And we'll take it to the other side. I actually find this stretch fairly demanding. Maybe you think it's more of a stress than a stretch. But it's a great one for inner thigh stretch. Stretches the outside of the ankle. We don't have a lot that does that, and there's a lot of benefit in it. You may have been told that you pronate or the insides of your feet cave in. This is a fantastic one for that. It's a lot of work for our bent leg to hold us here, just like our chair pose. And then our core muscles have to work to keep us strong as we are hinging forward. We'll come back through center and we'll add a chest stretch. So our thumbs are up and then back. That little twist can help us stretch across the front of the chest, more comfortable for the shoulders. Let's do that a few times here. So thumbs up and then back. Thumbs up and back. All right, this next time we'll hold them back. And then it's up to you if you want to hold them here as they are. We might like the arms more straight or more bent, your choice. We can also have our hands to the back of our hips, drawing our elbows towards one another, or we can interlace our fingers in behind us, punching those arms straight down and back. We can stay as we are, or we can do our chest lift. Again, channeling that uplifted sense of pep, our bergamot and our lemongrass. So we start from this uplifted position and then we chop ourselves in half as we come forward into our wide-legged forward fold. We may like to come down again halfway. If the chair is in front of you, we could be putting our hands on the back of the chair or the seat. We can release our hands at any point to thighs, shins, or floor. And then once we're there, we may like some movement so that we're not static. But notice if you are the type of person who's super fidgety and doesn't like to hold still, there may be benefit in deliberately choosing stillness instead of movement, especially as we move into our Vata season. That can be a time of difficulty with stillness, so we can practice it here while we're still warm and it's easier to be still. Let's use our next exhale to bring us up. Pull strong from the core. And then we'll bring our feet together. Let's do a couple stretches here. So we already did our lunge to lengthen out the front of the hip. That may actually be your preference for this one, to go back to our lunge, or maybe we're using our chair for balance to come into a quad stretch. I'll show us a couple of different ways that we can do it. So like I said, we can have our legs split. We could be up on the toe, tucking the tail under, and then dropping down a bit to transfer the stretch more down the front of the thigh. And then of course, lots of us will be doing our quad stretch or a variation of dancer's pose. Depending on how our shoulders are feeling, we might also like to flip thumbs back and hold the inside of the ankle. And generally there's a recommendation not to grab the top of the foot. There are smaller nerves on the top of the foot that can be quite delicate, and you may have even noticed this once. If you ever put shoes on that were too short for your foot and they kind of squish the top of the foot, they can cause discomfort or nerve pain, so we just avoid that by holding the ankle. Instead, it's a sturdier structure. Okay, once more, let's inhale, uplift and zest. And then we'll go ahead and release. We'll switch sides. Using the chair if we like, finding our balance. I'll show us those options again. So we can split the leg, maybe we tuck the toe, maybe we tuck the hip, maybe we drop the knee to transfer the stretch down the front of the thigh. Maybe we come into our typical quad stretch or dancer's pose variation. Let's give it some gusto. Instead of just limply holding here, we can kick down and away and then resist that movement standing up, strong with the arm. If we're holding on to something, let's check in. How much are we holding? Can we be a little bit loose? Maybe give the hand a shake, test our balance out, and lightly put the hand back down. Let's inhale and release with our exhale. All right, got one more here. You may actually like to do this one seated. It is an acquired taste, but maybe you like the flavor. So we'll do a variation of figure 4, ankle over thigh, yogi's choice. We can do it standing with the foot on the mat, across the ankle, across the thigh. We can do sort of like a chair pose variation, or same idea in a chair. All right, whichever option we pick, we get the stretch in the outside of the front leg or the top leg, depending on how we think of it. And then hinging more forward will give us more sensation. Okay, let's see if we can hold a couple more rounds of breath. Some of us may like to really fold forward, even holding the floor for support. It's a lot easier for our balance to put our fingers on the mat, right? Just as we did with our wide-legged forward fold, we're gonna pull from the core to bring ourselves up, and we'll switch sides. I'll show us standing on this side. So if you're in the chair, simply switching feet. If you are standing with me, we can take ankle over thigh. We can stay here. We can sit low. We may like to hinge forward. We can hold wall, whatever we like, or bring it all the way down. All right, yogi's choice. This will be our last one. And then we're ready to bring it right down. Take one more round of breath here. Pull strong from the core to come back up to standing. And we're ready. Maybe we like to shake it off, do anything else we need to do. We may like to do our meditation seated in our chair. Otherwise, we can finish standing for our mountain meditation in mountain pose. So sometimes we do our mountain meditation in mountain pose. Makes sense, right? Okay. Let's settle in however we like. We'll do a few more circle sweeps. The last one here. And then maybe we like to do a shake off of the hands or a pursed lip exhale. And then let's settle into our own personal mountain. So in mountain pose, generally, we have our toes pointed forward and we can point palms forward to help increase the length across the chest. Option to close the eyes. And if we want to keep our energy up, I would say we can lift the chin a little bit here. Generally, dipping the head down can be a little bit more sleepy feeling. Or sometimes it feels a little bit more pensive, more closed. We think about ourselves more with our heads dipped down. And if we lift our chins slightly, sort of opens our awareness to think about the world around us. And let's bring into our minds the image of a beautiful mountain. And let's see all the seasons pass over the mountain. Right now it's September. Maybe your mountain has apple trees or other visual representations of the season. We watch the leaves change color as the days get shorter and autumn comes into the land. We see the first few flakes of snow. Maybe some of the gentler streams freeze over, or icy rivers rush down the sides of the mountain. Winter and darkness settles on the land. The days begin to get longer, afternoons stretch into evenings. Springtime comes, the land begins to defrost. The first migrating birds bravely make their way back in the first days of spring. We see new growth begin. The rains come. The world warms up. The heat of the summer comes. The sun blazes overhead. Evenings stretch on for hours, and the nights are short and warm. We see the days getting shorter, and September returns again. And we can bring this image of continual shifting renewal into ourselves anytime we like. Noting how this technique landed for you here today, and if this image and practice has been of any value to you. noticing what meaning you have given the image of the mountain and the seasons. Feel free to stay in this mountain meditation as long as you like. And let's bring our hands together at heart center. Thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with me here today. From my light to yours, namaste.